Adam Stark here. I decided I'm going to do a live video and I am just going to talk about my personal favorite movies ever, like of all time. I even made a list just to make sure I don't forget any of my absolute favorite films that have ever been made. The only thing I just want to say first, these aren't in any particular order, but I will save my absolute favorite, 100% favorite top choice for last. I will say that at the end. Now, another thing I just want to say again, quick. If I don't mention one of your favorite movies, or one of your favorite actresses, or actors, or directors, it doesn't mean I don't love that person. This is specifically my top. In other words, these are movies I love so much, I have to watch them beginning to end when I see them, and I won't just watch them if they're on TV, because they're so good. I like to see the whole picture, beginning to end, and I don't like to be interrupted or miss them at all. So it doesn't, if I didn't say your favorite actor, actress, whatever it is, it doesn't mean that they weren't somebody that I like. I probably like them, whoever it is, but I just don't have them on my absolute top favorite. That's all it is, I still have a long list, but it's limited even with all of my criteria, because otherwise this would take 10 hours to do. So I'm just go over the top favorite films of all time, alright? So when it comes to comedy, I didn't want to do too many, because comedy's kind of a tough choice, because everybody's likes something different. Everybody laughs at different things. It's a really tough thing to say what's funny, because for a comedy movie, it's always a risk, 100% risk, because that might be funny to some people, and it might be stupid to others. It might be not funny at all to somebody, or it might be the funniest thing in the world to the next person. So I love a lot of comedy movies, all types of them, and way more than what I'm going to list here, but I'm just going to list my absolute favorite comedy movies, and this doesn't mean that these are the only comedians I like. I love a billion comedians and funny actors and actresses. This is just my top favorite comedy movies. That's all I'm saying. So, okay, for some reason, I don't know why it always gets me, but The Hangover, that movie is just too funny. That was 2009, and it's weird, especially for a newer movie, which is not my thing. I don't like newer films at all. I usually hate them, to be honest. Over the years, movies just get worse. In my honest to God opinion, technology and stuff has not helped movies. It has killed it, to me, in my opinion. But this is a surprise. It's a random concoction of four actors I didn't know anything about at the time when this came out. I didn't know nothing about any of them. And so it was really refreshing to see how well they worked together, and it had random humor that worked with me. It had inappropriate humor that made me laugh. It just had action in it in really funny ways, and it was just so unpredictable. It's just such a funny movie. I don't know, that movie is just great. I love that movie. I love the settings and everything. You never know where these guys are going to end up next, because they're so stupid in a good way. My other favorite comedy movie by far is Me, Myself, and Irene. I love Jim Carrey, and this is just my favorite of his movies, to be honest. There's only Jim Carrey could have done this role. There's no other actor that could have done this at all. No other actor I can think of could have done Me, Myself, and Irene. He plays a split personality, schizophrenic cop who, in one light, he's a completely normal person, and he's the nicest guy ever, but he gets taken advantage of. And all of a sudden, then he's a schizo, and he turns into Hank, the other version of himself. And this guy is nuts, and he is not afraid of confrontation. He's not afraid to get in people's faces and scream at them and be aggressive. And the way Jim Carrey moves his body is so crazy in this movie. Especially when he starts fighting himself. I don't know how he does that. He looks like he's actually choking himself without even touching himself with his hands. and the way like he like flips himself backwards and falls on the ground and stuff, the way he throws himself out of a moving car. Jim Carrey's amazing. I mean, that guy knows how to make you laugh visually. Like, you just look at him and he knows how to make you laugh. He can do impressions and he can make his face twist and turn in insane ways. Like, he's just an incredible funny actor. You know, you can't go wrong with this movie. This, in my opinion, this is his funniest movie. That's just the way I see it. So, anyways, I'm going to continue here and cross them out as I go. Alright, so this movie definitely would say, oh man, you gotta love The Sandlot. The Sandlot, it's just a classic. I mean, there's so many sport movies I could put on here, of course, and nobody's going to agree with what's the best sport movie. And then the funny thing about this movie that I like is, you know, is it, yes, Ranger, you're in the video. Is it a sports movie? Is it a kids movie? Is it an adventure movie? Like, what is it? That's my point. It's good for all those reasons because there's so many aspects to it. And another thing I always tell people, like with my own books and stuff that I've written and published, I always say, if you can't describe it in just one sentence, that's a good sign. That's what I always say. Because there's so much to it, you can't just say, oh, The Sandlot's about this. You have to give it a couple sentences. You can't just say it in one and done. And I'm not saying you have to do that for it to be good. But in this case, definitely. I mean, all these kids get together for the summer. You know, when you're a kid, that's all you think about is, yes, I'm done with school, I'm in the summer. You love baseball. I mean, it's baseball or any sport. You meet a bunch of friends when you just move, if you've ever moved, and you experience what it's like when you just moved to a new neighborhood. That's something that this movie can, you know, help you think about. And then all of a sudden, it's not even just about baseball anymore. It's about, you know, he loses his baseball in the worst possible way because there is an enormous, abnormal-sized dog on the other side that apparently has, like, committed murder and, like, 8 people and stuff. So it's like partly a horror movie, and then there's so many plots going on at the same time in this movie. It's just excellently done, and it has so many of those movie moments, you know what I mean, where you just, you watch and you're like, dang, they nailed it. You know, they made me feel something when I watched this. So it's a great, great movie. You know, it's just a wonderful time. I don't know who wouldn't like this movie, to be honest. I have no idea. It's so good. Alright, now next one, I love the medieval times like no other. I love them to death. And so, like, I love medieval weapons and stuff. Movies themselves, though, I'm not going to act like a lot of movies have really nailed it. Some movies, even with giant budgets and stuff, have just been trash when it comes to medieval times. Like, you have to have action. It's got to be well done. It's got to be great. You got to have a good story. You can't just have a generic this and that story. You have to have it all. And I think this movie does that, and this is why it's one of my favorites. Gladiator. This was 2000, I think, the year 2000, with Russell Crowe. And this was very well done. The action in it is really good. The story is good because you feel something when you watch it. The guy has it all. He's like the leader of, like, he's like the general of these armies, and then he gets betrayed when he was going to be named the next king or whatever it was. I'm not saying I remember exact details, but I haven't seen it in a while, but I still remember, like, he was about to be like the next guy at the top, and then his son found out that he wasn't going to be it, and instead it was Russell Crowe's character. And so what does he do? He kills his dad, and then he sends people out to kill Russell Crowe's family, and then you get to see his son and daughter's head cut off. I mean, it was like, dang, like, it was messed up to watch. You were like, oh man. Then he gets dragged down to their prisons or whatever, and then you see everyone else that has been taken in captive, and the mode, your whole mode from the movie goes from, sweet, this is cool, he just kicked ass in a major battle, to, ooh, dang, this guy's got nothing left to live for now, this sucks. And now he's becoming a joke. This guy is now an entertainer against his will to fight in all these battles just being watched by people. Like, he's like a peasant now. And it's a great, well done, well shot film. And it's one of those movies, one of the few movies I can think of where when you watch it, I actually like feel good. Like, by the time it's done, I'm saying, like, I feel like, wow, like, he's such a good-hearted guy, even with all the things he did. Like, when you watch it, you feel like, dang, I should be better. You know, when I'm done, you're like, yeah, I wish I was as good-hearted as he is. All right. Now, the next, I'm going to cheat a little bit, but, you know, why not? The Star Wars movies. Now, here's the thing, okay? I'm picky. So, the original 3 movies are amazing. I love them. I love them a lot. Okay? The original 3, 77, 77, 80, and 83. Okay? Star Wars original, A New Hope. And Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back. That's my favorite of the 3. Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, Episode 6. Great. Now, the other ones, I like parts of them. Like, I like the action in those newer movies, in all of the newer films, and stuff like that. And there's certain things I like about them. But mostly I don't. Like, I can't watch them without fast-forwarding through a bunch of rubbish. But the original trilogy, amazing. Flawless. Just timelessly perfect. They've created such a cool universe that we all wish we could be a part of. Like literally part of. Not just being fans of and whatever. Because, you know, they invented cool things. Like spaceships have been around forever, whatever. And they're great. But it's also like a laser sword. Not only a laser sword, but that when you're shooting at it, you can block with your lightsaber, and then the lasers deflect back. It's like, dang, like, that was smart thinking. Like, we take it for granted now because we're so used to it, because it's so mainstream. But I'm saying, at the time, this stuff was just incredible. And no, I wasn't born yet at the time. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, like, first seeing this, that's what I meant by that, okay? I'm not trying to fool anybody about my age or nothing. So, like, they're just very well done. The first one is great, beginning to end. Like, I love it, and it's good as, like, a standalone film. The original movie, you could just watch that one movie and be set. You don't have to, like, watch any of the others if you wanted to just be content with it. Now, a lot of people complain about the end of the original Star Wars where, oh, really? The Death Star has a port in it this big, and that's the weakness that they had that blows up the entire thing. The reason I actually forgive it, and most people, you know, hate that part of the whole movie, and they say that's one of the dumbest things they ever done. The reason I forgive it, though, is because they literally explain in the movie, leading up to it, when they're doing the planning stages, they say, hello, this was stolen by our spies, or by our Bothans, which is like their spies or whatever. So it's like, that's why I accept it, and I don't, you know, crap all over it, the story and stuff, because they said that. They said, you know what, this was a lucky advantage that a lot of people died to get you this info about the weakness. So that's why I'm forgiving it. I don't care. I don't, like, hate that. Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, best one by far. They're all, I will say this pretty much about all 3 of them anyway, but that one specifically, beginning to end, there is 0 dry spots. Nothing. Every character works together perfectly. The comedy is great. Okay? Every guy wants to be like Han Solo because he's just a badass, and he's like a bad person, like, but he's, you know, doing the right things, you know. So it's just great. And Carrie Fisher's role as Princess Leia was just amazing. I mean, she was like the first actress I was ever like wowed over, because she's so natural as a leader in this movie, these movies, but I'm saying that one too. Like, she takes charge, she shows everybody like she is there with a job to do, and you are not going to stop her. Okay, this woman is tough, and she is ready to show it. And she does an excellent job in all 3 movies, but that one specifically too. That one's got the best action, it's got the best music, it's got, like, the best moments, like creative moments and stuff, and obviously it has one of the greatest twists in movie history, and that has no input on why I'm putting that on my favorite list, But I'm just saying, it has one of the greatest twists in human history, and I like the twist. That's why I'm putting it on this list, because it was so cool that it was like, oh man, there was something to explain there, you know. So it was really cool. And then the last one, Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, I loved that movie actually better than the original Star Wars movie, which most people disagree with me on. But I don't know. I don't know what to say. I like the way it ended. I like how the battles were huge. They felt great. And people complained about the little Ewoks being the ones that helped beat the Imperial Army, stormtroopers and stuff. But, you know, the thing is, I like the point of it was George Lucas was looking at that. He's the director. He was looking at that like Vietnam. That's what it was. He was saying these were a group of people that didn't have crazy technology, and yet they, you know, destroyed a lot of the opposition in battles, right? So that's what this was kind of like an allegory to explain, like, hey, this is symbolism, this is what happened. And I liked it because it's not like they won right away. The Ewoks died, they flying all over the place. They had to figure out like 20 times how to actually win parts of the battles. So it wasn't like it was just a one-shot thing. Like, they took forever to actually start winning and getting the upper hand. So I love it. It was great. And, like, you know, it's very suspenseful at, like, near the end and stuff. So it was a great ending, and they shouldn't have made any more after. Since they did, whatever. I enjoy the action scenes in the newer ones, and that is pretty much it for the new ones. That's my personal opinion. But the original 3 trilogy, nothing to complain about. Amazing. Next, I'm going to talk about the Wachowski Brothers directed the Matrix movies. These movies are just amazing. I love them. A lot of people, if you don't love them, it's because you don't understand them at all. And look, I've been studying them for years, and I'm not even saying I understand all of the things about them. There's a million theories about them, and that gives them replayability. To me, some people that might not. Sometimes you just want to watch a movie and enjoy it as is, face value. Me, I like, if it's complicated, that's okay with me. Some people don't like that. I like movies that are complicated and the ones that are not. But the ones that are complicated I like because then I can research, like, did I miss something? Like, why did this character do this? Was this part real? Did this part take place even? What happened? In The Matrix, here's the point. Though, the downside, and yes, I am going to be critiquing movies I love, even though that might not make sense because I'm supposed to be praising them, but I'm going to do it anyway because whatever, it's my video. So, the things I will say I don't like about them is they start off with the best one ever, and they just get worse each time. And that's just an unfortunate thing that happens. I don't know. Whatever. I mean, it's not like it doesn't ruin it or anything. I'm just saying. So, like, the first Matrix is just a perfect movie. Everything about that movie is just amazing, and I can't skip anything in this movie. I know I'm going to say about all of them anyway, but I'm just saying I can't skip anything in this movie. Okay, Keanu Reeves is just amazing. He comes off as the I don't like authority person, and then it changes from, like, you think he's just there in the movie to be like, I need to do something and I need to get out of my life, and then you realize no, he takes a completely different journey that you wouldn't have seen coming at all. You couldn't have predicted all this, right? And then I almost want to say Laurence Fishburne steals the show. Like, when he played Morpheus in these movies, every word he says, like, has meaning to it, and it's, like, well thought out. He's like such a good character, and he's such a good actor. It's just impeccable. His work in a lot of movies, like Boys in the Hood was another great one, but I'm just saying, like, this one here was just nailed perfectly. I don't know. Like, I'm just really impressed. Like, it was flawless. And so in The Matrix, you have... It looks so good back in 99 that it's still comparable to movies that are coming out nowadays, decades later, which is one thing to say. It changed movies forever for how they are filmed for action scenes, and that has nothing to do with my grading of it, putting it on my personal favorites. I don't take historical value as any amount of input for this list, but I'm just simply adding that in, okay? The Wachowski brothers did a great job. Now, the thing with The Matrix is they have some of the coolest action scenes ever. You have kung fu, crazy kung fu, and then you have crazy gun battles, firefights, stuff like that. But, another thing that blows my mind about it is they, just like Star Wars, very similar in this way, they built their own universe. They're saying that the world, like planet Earth or whatever, is just a simulation and all these people need to be woken up and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go into the whole thing or this video would never end. You have to just watch it yourself, please. But the point is, the people that do get woken up and they come into the real world of Zion and stuff, and they see, okay, so this world is where we need to reach people, to come out and help our side, but until they're freed, they are an enemy of ours. And then you have to worry about agents, which are basically like viruses. But the point is, so they made up this world that, because of that, these fights all have value, they all make sense, and they all have meaning to it. They're not just random battles thrown into the movie at random times like some movies do. Like some action movies don't have purpose. These do, and they do it well, in my personal opinion. So when Neo is realizing, I can break the rules, I can jump and kick off of the wall, and I can stand on one arm and lift my leg up and kick you like this, that it makes sense in this movie because they established the rules and the breaking of the rules and all that stuff so well that I just enjoy it. I enjoy the slow motion cinematography. I realize it's been made fun of and spoofed ever since. That doesn't take away from how great this one was, though, which everybody seems to forget, in my opinion, from opinions I read about online and stuff, is, oh, well, this is a Matrix moment, I don't care. This one was done well, the one that started it, right? And then you have, I love, like, so many scenes of this, but I think my favorite might be, like, when they think Morpheus is done for, when he's doomed. You have Neo's character just making you amped up. He's like, no, stop. He's like, I'm not the one, but I do think I can bring him back. I think that's what I'm meant to do. And they fight those crazy nonstop action, and he throws the rope to get Trinity from the helicopter and stuff, and Morpheus is watching it like, that's the one. No, anyways, so now here's when the bad parts come, okay? First movie, flawless. You can watch it beginning to end and feel like you're content, like that's the end of it, okay? Matrix Reloaded comes along. You're like, there's more? There can be more? Here's the problem with The Matrix Reloaded. No joke, and I am no disrespect at all. But in that movie, I'm not joking you, I have to fast forward half of it. There's so much dialogue that I don't care about in that movie. Like, I have to fast forward it to watch it because some of it is just, I can't do it. But here's my point. The action scenes are even better in this one than the first one. So that's one thing. You're like, whoa, they're better? Yeah. I mean, they are really good. They're like really cool looking. There are moments of bad CGI, yes. But that's forgivable. I mean, it is what it is, It doesn't ruin the entire movie. It just, makes you kind of get uncomfortable for a second. But overall, they do great, right? So the action scenes are bigger, way bigger. The highway is one of the best action scenes of all time. I mean, just very cool, very fun to watch, right? And then the architect comes in and steals the show, because that pissed off everybody watching it. It pissed the critics off. It made everybody freak out and go, what is he even saying? What is he talking about? And the fact that years later people are still dissecting what he was saying, and some people are saying, oh, it's actually this, or it is this, it's not that, it's this, it's this, it's that. It is great. And it's such an intense scene. The music for that scene, everything that he says is just great. I mean, oh man. And so like the intense scene of the Keymaker giving his speech and stuff. I love this movie, man. I do. I just have to fast forward a lot of it. Then we get to the final movie, Matrix Revolutions. The least favorite by far. I mean, I can enjoy it for some of the action scenes and I can enjoy that, okay, there's closure and it's not how I thought it would happen and stuff like that. So I can enjoy parts of it, you know, like Bane and stuff. I can enjoy some of it. What I can't enjoy is it's all a lot of talking that I felt like was unnecessary again. Why can Agent Smith fly? It makes no sense. He just all of a sudden he can fly. It doesn't make sense to me. It was just like a random moment that I didn't like. Like it kind of ruined a lot of the last fight. You know, it's just like, what am I watching? So there's just parts of it. I like certain parts though. I like that they added like the idea of, oh my God, Neo can get in and out of the Matrix without even plugging in. What? Like that was pretty cool. Like I like parts of it, yes, but overall I don't like the Matrix Revolutions. It just is what it is, you know. Okay. Next, I'm gonna talk about my favorite Denzel Washington movies. Denzel Washington, he might be my favorite actor of all time. I mean, it's always so hard to say. That's always like a toss-up, right? But that man is just incredible. That man can do anything. And, you know, I heard somebody else say this. I don't even remember who it was in some video I was listening to at work one night. Where any movie that guy's in, even if it's not even a good movie, like the movie fails and it just is just a bomb, you know, it just sucks or whatever, he is still worth watching. And that is such a true statement. It really is. You get a movie that it's just not good for whatever reason. Again, not trying to be disrespectful. I'm not. You know, because these people that produce and direct and act and stuff and do the sound effects and everything, they've been giving me entertainment for my whole life. But what I'm saying is some movies are just not good. It is what it is. But I'm saying it's so true, though. Even the movies that are not good, when they have Denzel in it, the scenes he is in, you watch him and it's worth watching. He doesn't have slip-ups, and he doesn't have hiccups. He doesn't have moments of just whack acting. He always is still right on the mark that he needs to be. So I'll start off with arguably his best personal role, Malcolm X. I mean, he played that amazingly. I mean, I was always interested in Malcolm X. Like, I read his autobiography when I was in junior high, and because, you know, I was like, I want to learn more about this. You know, there was something just amazing about Malcolm X. You know, I wanted to learn about him and stuff, and I'm not saying I'm good at reading and reading comprehension. That was always a struggle of mine. But, you know, and then you watch the movie Malcolm X with Denzel in it, and he nails this role, and you can see how he started, and by the time that movie's done, you see all the stuff he went through. You see how people in his own group like didn't support him anymore, and they were that quick to like hate on him and stuff. So like Malcolm X went through just a drastic transformation in his life and in this movie, and I like that this guy, similar to Pac, my favorite artist of all time, there was zero filter. There was you're going all in. You know, you're telling the truth. You don't care whose feelings you hurt. You're going to let them know what is right, what is wrong, and stuff. And I think Denzel nailed that role. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with me on that. I mean, it's a shame this movie didn't get better praise than it did. It did get good praise, but I'm saying it should be more. It should be a lot more, man. That he nailed that role like crystal perfect, man. Another Denzel movie, absolutely. Training Day, well deserved his award for that movie. He got that. I didn't think, because every movie I had seen before that, he was the good guy, you know, or he was, you know, maybe not necessarily good, but he was in the middle. He was like a neutral ground. He was never like the bad guy. So to find out that he plays the bad guy in Training Day, and you don't know that right away when you watch it, but I'm just saying, it was like, because you don't see Denzel doing that like beforehand. At least I didn't. I'm just saying. So when I got to see him do that, and dang, he nailed that too. Like, he can play good, he can play bad, he can play whatever. He's just an impeccable actor. I mean, he's just amazing. So like in Training Day, he's funny. He is ruthless. He's willing to get whatever he wants. He is ruling Compton, like his area, with an iron fist. Like he's showing people, like, yeah, you owe me this, you owe me that. I don't care what you're doing with this and that. And you know, he's tough, and he is calculated and flawless with his planning. He's like, yep, we got this new rookie cop coming up here, and this is what I'm gonna do with him. And it's so crazy. Like, everything about that movie, I'm not even just saying Denzel, everything about that whole movie was great. Like, I like the scene when they take Officer Hoyt in the bathtub with the shotgun and stuff. Like, those scenes were just well done and just amazing. So that movie, you gotta see that. If you haven't seen that one, man, great movie all around. Everybody was great, but I'm just still saying Denzel stole the show, that one. Okay, Man on Fire, that's another good one. That's a tearjerker for sure. You know, because it deals with little kids and bad things happening. It's a tearjerker. It'll make you sad, but you're still gonna watch it because it's based on something that really does happen, and Denzel is not necessarily like a good guy. I mean, he's an alcoholic. He tried to kill himself and it didn't work, and he saw that as like a sign of, no, I ain't gonna do that and stuff. And you got to see this man after he gets shot and the girl he's responsible for gets stolen. You get to see his heart break, and then your heart breaks, and you feel it like he feels it, and he shows it on the screen. You see him slowly dying, but he isn't stopping. He has a mission, and you're not stopping him from getting that little girl and getting revenge and all that stuff. And, well, I said it in the wrong order, but you know what I mean. And he does it so well. You feel for him every moment in this. You're like, yes, do that. and it's such a tear-jerking movie. It's such an emotional movie. And Denzel, as always, has just the best punchlines. I mean, he pulls out the RPG in the old people's window, and they said something about you know, you should forgive or something, and then he was telling the old people, he's like, forgiveness is between them and God, I'm just the messenger, or something like that he said. And he gives you those chills, you know. He's just an amazing actor, man. He's probably my favorite. I mean, I don't know how you're going to get much better than him, you know. Alright, now another movie I want to put on my favorite list for sure. Ed Wood. This is an incredible movie, man. This was in 94, I think, maybe 95. This was directed by Tim Burton. This was with Johnny Depp and Martin Landau are the most notable. And what was so cool about this, so I learned about Ed Wood, the actual director, Ed Wood, in like the weirdest way. I was watching some random video on Netflix. It was the top 50 worst movies of all time, or films of all time, something. And I was like, oh, this will be funny. And I keep hearing there was 3 movies they put on there from Ed Wood. And the worst movie of Ed Wood's, Plan 9 from Outer Space, was on there. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, this is a movie so bad, and it was actually released as this. This was the finished product, and it was this terrible, this trash of a film. And I'm like, oh my god. So I became a fan of Ed Wood like that because of how bad he was, which is so funny to me because that's usually not how it works. But you watch his movies and you laugh your ass off because it's still funny. It's not like he fails to like tell the story right. He does so many mistakes, but yet you still watch it because it's funny. It's funny how obvious he is speeding through the process and screwing things up. But what this movie does, it shows you all of that I just said, and it shows you what kind of a person he was. Like, he still had a passion and a heart for following his dreams and pursuing his dreams, which is something everybody can relate to. And so that's what I like. The character of Ed Wood was great. Of course, there's things in these movies that they're going to get wrong, and they're going to say are inaccurate and whatever. The main thing I guess I would say that bothered me is the reason Dolores played by Sarah Jessica Parker. She nailed it too, by the way. She did a great job. The reason that she actually left Ed Wood in real life was because of alcohol and alcoholism, and he was an alcoholic. They didn't really make that the reason why she left him in this movie, so that was wrong. That was inaccurate and wrong. They shouldn't have done that. But that's what they ended up doing. Whatever. Besides that, though, I don't care what things they got inaccurate. I care about the things that they got right. And since none of us were there when these movies were made by Ed Wood and co., it's like we're allowed to be watching this wondering what it was like. So that stuff I don't really care about. Now, the point of this movie is Johnny Depp nails Ed Wood perfectly. He's so excited. He's such a happy character. He's so flattered about movies. He's so down on himself when things don't go right. He's like a normal human being in that sense of, loving his successes, frowning really harshly on his failures. But he still manages to have enough spirit to get through, get them done, get them made, and he's proud of his work, and then people don't like his work. But what I really liked about this too is there's so many different features of this movie. There's the biographical part where you're like, okay, this is his life, well, part of his life, and then there's here's Michael Starr's character playing the sleazy movie director, and you see that part of it, and that part is great. Every time he says something, you just laugh, and then you agree with what he said. And then you get his friendship with Bela Lugosi, played by Martin Landau, and Martin Landau won the Oscar for that role, very well deserved. I mean, he nailed Bela Lugosi. I didn't even know who Bela Lugosi was. I was too young, but then this made me look into him and stuff, and I really appreciate his work even more. And then you look at side-by-side scene comparisons of real Bela Lugosi playing his roles and Martin Landau playing Bela Lugosi in the Ed Wood movie of his roles, and you're like, wow, amazing resemblance. Just incredible. Sound, tone, voice, timing, pitch, everything is there. Looks, everything. It's just really crazy. And it makes you sad because he gets on his drugs, which is something that actually happened. And then you feel happy. Ed Wood, makes a resurface of Bela's career, and he gets to go on and make more movies. And that's great. I love that they show that. And then he overdoses and he goes to the hospital, and you feel bad because this is a real story. This stuff happened. And then, Ed Wood meets that girl in there, and she makes you smile because, she's just a sweetheart, and she's there for her grandpa. She's making booties for him. And then she's like, here, I made these for your friend. And then they go out on a date. And it's it just makes you happy when you watch this stuff. And then you're like, wow, this girlfriend's a lot better to him than his last one in the movie. I mean, you know what I mean? And in real life, she never divorced him or left him or anything. She stayed with him till he actually died, and she never remarried. So it's just, everything in this movie was acted perfectly to a T. Although, I will say, another thing I should say that I don't like about the inaccuracy about this movie, the real Bela Lugosi never swore as outrageously as this Bela Lugosi. I don't know why they made him swear so much. It's kind of weird, but whatever. I mean, it is what it is. You do whatever you want to do, I guess, when you get the go for making the movie. And that is a must-see. It's such a good movie beginning to end. There's so much to it that I didn't even touch on. You have to see it. Ed Wood is just an amazing movie. I mean, you feel good at the end of the movie. You feel good in the middle of the movie. You feel good at the random funny things that people say. And it's just great, man. You gotta love it. You love it when, the little moments in that movie, you feel like they mean a lot. I don't know if I'm explaining this very well, but, when they're watching movies, and Ed Wood and Bela Lugosi are starting to become close friends, and that's his hero. That was his hero growing up, watching him, right? And so it's oh my God, he's friends with his hero now, his idol and all that. And then kids come over and ring the doorbell, and Bella's like, I love kids. He gets on his cape, and he tries to scare the kids for Halloween when they say trick or treat. One kid doesn't leave, and then here comes Ed Wood out, and he pulls out his fake teeth and he scares that kid away or whatever. Like that moment. And then my other favorite moment they put in this movie, and I don't even care if this part was real or not, but when they were done shooting Bride of the Atom, Bride of the Monster, they renamed it, whatever, and Bella's walking down the street when he got out of the rehab center and stuff, and he was, or I might, maybe whatever it's called, I'm calling it rehab center, and he's like, don't worry, I didn't get to see the movie. He's like, I lived the role. And then he's standing there on the street, and he's saying his lines, I will create the world of atomic supermen. And he just gives his performance right there on the street. And then there's all the crowd clapping for him, and like all the kids are like applauding him, and he's just out there in public. And then people are like running up to him, asking him for his autograph and stuff. Just such a beautiful moment. I mean, I don't care if that part was even real or not. I love that. That was like a cool thing to see. He was appreciated. He was idolized. He was honorable. He was a great guy. And he was an excellent actor for his roles. And then he dies. And you could tell that just broke Ed Wood's heart. You know, I mean, that was a sad part to see in the movie. It was messed up. You know, and then he makes Plan 9 from Outer Space, and they showed all of the absurd things he did, like take like the fake UFOs that you can see like the strings on them, and he puts it in the film anyway, and the continuity of daytime and nighttime in the same scene where it doesn't match at all, and somehow he's like, cut, print, we're good, and they're like, you should do a retake. He's like, nope, that was perfect, let's move on. And he would shoot like 30 scenes a day, and somehow swindle his way to get the funding to make actual movies released in Hollywood that were that bad. I mean, that you'll never see that again. And since he's dead, more stuff have been released posthumously. Like after he died, more things about him have came out, and I like stuff like that. That's really, really cool. And this movie, in my opinion, did a great job. It's a feel-good movie, but it's just cool to see things like. This was Tim Burton's best movie by far, in my opinion. Like, by far. Just excellent job. Everybody nailed it. Alright. Next, I'm going to go with gangster movies. Alright. This is obviously a tough choice, and there's obviously a lot more I could name. Excuse me. But I'm just going to go with this, okay? Goodfellas is probably my favorite. Probably. I'm not saying 100%, but probably. Goodfellas, Martin Scorsese movie, just incredible movie, beginning to end. You don't want to miss a scene. You don't care if there's not action going on or if this isn't a main point. If this is just a side conversation or whatever, you want to see it all because you got all these amazing actors together, just nailing it every time, flawlessly. You got DeNiro is the gentleman, Jimmy the Gent, and he's a hothead when he needs to be. And then you got Joe Pesci, just the funniest, craziest guy ever. Like, and then you got Henry Hill, of course. Everybody's just perfect in this. And like, so you read about like the real story and stuff, what stuff they got wrong, what stuff they did right, or whatever. But my favorite part by far, when you read about like this movie and what it's based on, Joe Pesci's character is actually Tommy. He's actually like 6 feet tall or something, right? And yet, when people that were, you know, around like the real story of Goodfellas saw Joe Pesci's performance, they said they don't even care that Joe Pesci's like half his height. Not half, that's disrespectful. I didn't mean that. You know what I mean? But like at his height, much lower than the actual Tommy. But that had nothing to do with it because he has so much energy. He has so much anger that he releases. He has such a commanding presence that they bought it. They were like, yeah, that was him. And he doesn't even look like him. Like, by height and stuff. It didn't even matter because his acting was that great. You love seeing this is how the people lived. This is how the gangsters were living their lives. And it was really cool to see. Every scene in this movie is worth watching. You don't want to skip nothing in it. Like, the scene when they're having dinner, a surprise midnight dinner at his mother's house, and then the guy is in the trunk of the car, and they talk about the painting, and they talk about this, and then his mother gets on Henry Hill for not talking ever and whatever, and then Joe Pesci takes the butcher knife and says, "Can I borrow this, Mom? I got, I ran over a deer and I got to cut off the hoof. It's a sin, And I'm like, what? What does that even mean? So I'm just laughing. Everything about this is great. You can see, like, everybody's got their different personalities. They clash, and then they work together. It's so funny. And DeNiro is just flawless in this one, which is never a surprise. I mean, he never fails to deliver, honestly. And Scorsese's directing style was fit for this, because another thing I love about this is so many of the characters in this had impromptu lines where they were just told, yeah, just go with it. Not like, read this verbatim, word for word on the script. Just like, they're like, no, just go with this conversation. And you can look up facts about this movie. There's several parts in this movie where the reactions from characters were like a genuine reaction, where they weren't told in the script, open your eyes like this and stare and be silent until you know what to say. No, that was impromptu acting. That was off the top. That was improvising. And that's so cool that so many words of dialogue in these scenes were just impromptu. Done well. The action's done well. The story is great. And a lot of it's real, of course, as you know. It's cool to see, like, the betrayals and, like, the decisions made and the deterioration of characters. And when you get to see everybody celebrating the good times, and you get to see, people screwing up and people doing dumb things and people betraying each other, and you see, like, where you started to where you ended up and all that. Like, they did it so well. I don't know one person that wouldn't like this movie if they saw it. It's also funny. Like, there's everything is in this movie, man. What can you not like about Goodfellas? Seriously. All right. Godfather. Here's the thing. Okay, I like all the movies. I do. But 2 is too long. Like, and that's coming from me. I don't mind long movies at all. I don't. But that one, I can't do it. I don't know. It just drags for me. Godfather Part 3. A lot of people don't like it. A lot of people do like it. I like parts of it. I don't like the ending. I like Vincent, the character. I thought he was great. I thought he was like a great character that added to the movie. Sorry, I'm taking drinking breaks. And stuff like that. So there's good and bad. But anyways, the first one, that's when the movie was nailed. Godfather Part 1, man. Again, perfect movie. Man, that movie is great. It is worth the hype. It is worth the praise. It is not over exaggeration when you hear about this movie. I love every actor and actress in it. Everybody is just great. And this was made in 1972, I think. I mean, it was made so long ago. There was all the effects in it were like impractical, practical effects, and it's still done well and everything. And you hear about the real story about this movie. It was almost never made. There was bomb threats. There was threats to people that were in this movie. There was threats that you need to cast actual, like, Italians that were, like, found with their their like lineage in actual Italy and stuff, like that had ties, that they would have to be in this movie, and like they weren't allowed to use certain words. They were censored extremely because otherwise they would kill, like, the directors and stuff. They said this movie is offensive. They're not making it. They don't care that it's based on a book. They're like, no. But anyways, it still got made, obviously. And one of the reasons it got made was because of Marlon Brando. It was just phenomenal. This is always going to be his most remembered role, and that's fine with me, because he played Don Corleone, the Godfather, just amazingly. He captures your attention. In every scene, you're staring at this guy, and you're just in awe of like how much of a boss he is. Like, that's like the vision you have. It's like mainstream. Like, when you think of like a boss, you think of him. You think of Marlon Brando playing this character, right? And Marlon Brando himself, not to get off topic, but he kind of changed the tone for actors all across Hollywood and whatnot anyway, because he was one of the first people to stop the kind of average, talking and acting of actors, where actors are exaggerations. They all talk like, now see here, this is what's going to happen, and that's what they kind of did in like the 40s and 30s and stuff. And Marlon Brando came in and he's like, I'm going to wear no sleeves. I'm going to have some dirt on my shirt. And he was kind of like, I'm going to act as in being myself, being like a normal person, instead of an actor. We're all wearing sharp suits. We're all talking so perfectly with everything that we say. Marlon Brando came in and changed that. Not talking about this movie, I'm saying before that. But anyways, now back to this. You can just tell I love these movies so much. So like Marlon Brando, he shoved Kleenexes or napkins or something in his lips so he could nail the speech down, how he talks. He was trying to match the mannerisms and stuff of people that he was being based on, and people in the book and all that, and people that were actually had gangster ties and stuff respected it enough to give him their blessing, to say, yep, you can do this. I mean, if your acting is that good, that says it all right there. That you're respected by the actual people and stuff, and you got you got the go ahead, the approval to go on with the movie, right? And then Al Pacino comes in. He's a young Al Pacino. He's not like the yelling Al Pacino that we're used to, and I love that one too. So don't get me wrong, I love Al Pacino, but this movie, he still nails the role. He starts off as like the innocent guy. He's the war hero. He's like the nicest guy in the world kind of guy. And then he gets sucked into this underworld, and he all of a sudden he's calling the shots, man. And he's a changed man. He's like, no, we're doing it like this. These are people that are mixed up in drugs, and this is what's going to happen, and none of this. And I mean, it's so cool to see like the transformation that takes place. Props to Al Pacino too. Everybody in this movie. The guy that plays Sonny, forgive me, please, for not saying your name right, but he nailed it. The hot-headed son. I love his character. He's funny. He's aggressive. He's great. He does everything you want him to do in the movie. When his sister's getting beat up by the husband, he comes in there and he throws him against the wall, the trash can and stuff. And at the dinner time, when the husband tells his sister to shut up, he says, "Don't you ever tell my sister to shut up." Like, he just gets in his face. You love this guy. How could you not? And the funny thing, if you listen to the audition tapes, Robert De Niro tried for that role, for Sonny, and then the other guy got it. And then Robert De Niro ended up being Don Corleone from the past in The Godfather Part 2, which became amazing for two reasons. One, it was the only character to ever receive the Academy Award, or whatever it's called, for the same character but played by two different people in two different films. And it was crazy because it showed that Robert De Niro was good enough to get that award, and he didn't speak any English. I mean, you can't make that stuff up. It's just crazy. I love The Godfather, man. Especially that first one, though. The other two, they dip. But I love the first one, man. You can't not love that. It's just great. It's great stuff. Oh, and I should also mention that after The Godfather came out, an actual mob leader, mob boss, or somebody actually did die. Like, they went to like a screening of the movie or something, if I'm remembering this right, and they got like assassinated. So like, real death came after this movie, basically because of this movie, because it drew out a bunch of people and stuff. It's just kind of crazy, you know. Alright. Next movie I'm going to mention, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Great movie. I mean, basically everybody has seen it, or at least heard of it. It was just really cool. I mean, I love the effects in it. As old as this movie is, 71 or 74 or something, whatever it is. I love the effects in it. I don't care that like some of the candy's made out of balloons and stuff, like the life-size suckers and whatever. I don't even care. It's done well enough that I enjoy it. It's really neat because the movie starts out, you have Charlie. He's the little boy that has to work, to help out his family. He's just a little kid at school, and he's delivering newspapers. He comes home. He's got his mom. He doesn't have a dad. That's never explained. He just doesn't have a dad, and that makes you sad. And then he's got 4 grandparents in the same bed, and you just feel bad for this poor kid. And then the grandpa, to me, might be the one that steals the show, Grandpa Joe, because what does he do? He reminds us of our grandpas, you know? You watch this movie and you think of your own memories you have with your grandparents. How he's getting Charlie excited about the golden ticket, and the mom's like being the realist, like, don't get his hopes up like that. How could you do that? And he's like, never mind. Let's see that gold. You know, he's just such a natural grandparent like character in this movie that, like, I don't know. I don't really know if I'm explaining what I'm trying to say, but he just does that grandpa role so perfectly because he makes you think of your own. You know what I mean? And so, and then it becomes a completely different movie when they're done with the movie's own comedy of, like, here's this winner, here's this winner, here's this winner, here's this winner, here's Charlie's insane teacher or whatever. Then Charlie, the only kid of them that is poor, wins the ticket, and it's like, wow, cool. And it's a feel-good movie. You love the music. It's a musical, and you love every song in this movie. You're singing along with them every time. You feel good about him. You know, I got the golden ticket, and he's not selling it like everyone's trying to get him to. He's running straight home, and he shows it to Grandpa Joe. You think he's going to take his mom with him, and he takes his Grandpa Joe, which takes you by surprise the first time you've seen this. Grandpa Joe gets out of bed. He can barely walk. He needs his cane. He's falling all over the place, making you laugh, and then he sings the song, and they go together, and then you see the actual factory, and then Gene Wilder comes in as Willy Wonka, and then he steals the show, and you're going, dang, dude, because he is insane, and he does it very well, without being boring, and also unpredictable. He says, like, the craziest things. Stop, help, please, somebody help. Hey, that's what he does. I mean, he's just great. Everything he says is hilarious. The guy asks him a serious question. I'm sorry, all questions must be written or must be submitted in writing or something, you know. And you get to see all the effects. You get to see all the kids misbehave and disappear. You get the ending that is just surprising. Like, you don't see, you can maybe guess some of it, but you don't see all of that. No, you don't. Don't act like you saw all that coming. No, you didn't. You know, you get to see some cool stuff. You get to see Charlie, enjoying time with his grandpa. You get to see Grandpa enjoying time with his grandson, Charlie. You know, you get to see all sorts of cool stuff. It's just a wild adventure. It's like a fairy tale. And it's just cool because, you know, you always wonder, what do these places really look like, right? You know, obviously this is likely an exaggeration and Oompa Loompas and stuff, but it's still cool. Everything about this is just a lot of fun. It's got creepiness to it. It's got a side of horror in it. Like, it's got all sorts of stuff. You can't not like that movie. It's just amazing. It's a timeless classic. I'll like it when I'm young. I'll like it when I'm old. Okay. I'm going to say this. Stop motion films. Okay. I love a lot of these, right? But I'm just going to limit it to, like, my two absolute must-have favorites. King Kong, the original, 1933. King Kong came out in 1933, and this was done by Willis O'Brien, who is the original master of stop-motion animation and dinosaurs and stuff. This guy was the one that taught Ray Harryhausen everything he knew, basically, and helped him perfect his craft for making the most known stop-motion movies and stuff like that. But King Kong came out, Willis O'Brien's era, 1933. This movie came out during the Great Depression. This movie came out, and Peter Jackson, who remade King Kong with, like, the stunning CGI of 2005's time, could not replicate King Kong 1933 using the effects using the tools and items that were kept in storage and confinement from 1933. He couldn't do it. He cannot figure out how Willis O'Brien did, and his crew, I mean, give credit where it's due, but I'm saying he couldn't figure out how they did it. It's a mystery. This movie captured lightning in a bottle. This movie came out in 1933. It looks like it came out 20 years later than that. It's like, whoa. And I can agree with that. I'm not just saying, like, stuff that you would read online. I'm saying when King Kong is on the screen and he grabs one of, like, the people in the village, right? And then he, like, throws them, and then, like, there's, like, this wicker stand thing, and there's people on it, and they fall down, and then King Kong is in like the foreground and the background in the right time, and there's no lapse. There's no like, oh, that's obviously like a different screen. Like, it's done so flawlessly. I'm like, how are they doing that already? Like, this should be the era where you could see so many errors and so many fake people, like clay model people and stuff, and like in some shots, yeah, you can tell. But I'm saying, in a lot of the action in this, you don't see it. And besides even all that, screw all that. Let's just say it, like, I don't care about historical value, fine. This movie's great beginning to end. It's cool seeing what the world looked like in 1933 in the places they visit. It's a cool story. Carl Denham's this exotic director, and he wants to go to this place no one's ever gone before. He takes a girl with him that was, needed something bigger to do and with her life and stuff. And then she does a great job in this movie. And then you get Jack, the brave guy, and blah, blah, blah. You get all this cool stuff. And then you get the dinosaurs. Well done. You get action scenes. You get horror scenes. You get an entire adventure in this movie. And when you think it's done, it's not. Then they're in New York City, and King Kong breaks free, and you see just a pandemic of horror. He wreaks havoc on New York City, and it's just so cool to see. And so you have to love King Kong, man. It's just, the effects are amazing. It still looks good today, and it's just such a cool movie. And then the other one for stop motion I'm going to have to put on here, absolutely put on here, is Jason and the Argonauts, which is made by Ray Harryhausen, the one that succeeded Willis O'Brien. Willis O'Brien taught Ray Harryhausen what he knew, and then Ray Harryhausen became more known for this stuff, for sure. But anyways, what Ray Harryhausen did differently than most others, when he made stop motion, he was the king of it because he thought of the little things, like when he would take 12 hours in the studio to make 30 seconds of footage. That's impressive. That's crazy. And not only that, not only was he good at the art of it and stuff like that, like the little details of scales, teeth, eyes, blinking, and everything like that, but he knew, like, dinosaurs, like, when they're just, like, standing around, like, breathing or something, they're going to be wagging their tails and stuff, while they're doing that. And, like, you see that, and you don't even think about that stuff. He was smart enough to be like, I'm going to make this work, and I'm going to make it work very well. Anyways, I'm getting a little off topic, sorry. Jason and the Argonauts. It's a medieval age, but science fiction fantasy movie. There is Greek gods and goddesses in this. There is sword fights. There is action fights. There is funny moments. There is giant monsters that look incredibly cool, and it's stop motion, but it's done with amazing work because of Harryhausen that you don't even, it's better than, because you're always going to be comparing this to CGI today. Here I go getting off topic again. But CGI today, you hope that you're done enough to make it look good, right? But the thing about stop motion that's always been preferenced a lot of times is because there's something actually there, right? Where CGI, it has to be done flawlessly, or people are going to be upset when they watch it, right? So that's one thing, and this movie does it really well. You got the monsters in this that are fighting. You got the skeleton fight at the end. Yes, I'm just going to give away the ending. I'm sorry, but seriously, it's an action movie of the ages. At the end, there's these skeletons with swords, and the fight, it's not like a boring fight. It's a well, choreographed fight with swords, and these skeletons are just so cool. Like, they really steal the show at the end. And there's dragons that fight and stuff. There's so many things, but I'm just saying, that's the part you're going to remember in this. It's so cool to see that. It's a lot of fun. Okay. Next, Juice. Yes, you got to have Juice, man. Juice is an amazing movie. This was with Pac in it, of course. Omar Epps. Samuel Jackson was in this, too. This was an amazing movie. You have to love this movie. It even says Dr. Dre's in the movie in the credits. I still can't figure out where he is, though. in the movie. I'm not joking. It says that, but I can't find them. I gotta take another drink. So Juice, I think that was 92. It's a great movie because, you know, it's friends in high school. They're always ditching high school, but it's friends in high school. Okay, right? And you got one kid that's got all the clout. He's like the star of the group, right? And then you got the one kid that's trying to fit in. They're all like different, but they're all a crew, as they literally put it. We're the wrecking crew. We're the crew, right? And then you got Pac, who's just the funniest character. He's got the most character of all the characters in the movie, right? And then it's crazy because he's like an innocent kid and everything. And then all of a sudden, Raheem, he gets the idea. He's like, hey, I got something good. You got to see this. He gets a gun. And he's like, yeah, we're going to rob this joint. And it goes all wrong. Oh, my God. You know, the gun goes off, and it probably shouldn't have. They all meet in the alleyway. They run away. So all of a sudden, the movie goes from, I just want to see what happens, to that, where you're literally staring at the screen like, what is going to happen now? Oh my God. This movie is the best the first time you watch it. Duh. That's what you're going to say every time you watch a movie. But I'm saying, seriously, this one, the first time you watch it, is the best time. Like, my God. And, you know, then the gun goes off again, of course, and something happens. And then the funeral for that, or the wake, whatever you want to call it, it has a tone to it that'll almost haunt you, man, when you see this movie, if you haven't seen it. And the lines in this are just great. You get to see Pac's character become insane. I mean, and it's well acted. Like, you get to see him become insane in this movie. Like, it's as if the gun, like, literally changed him as a person. That is what it did. That's what it feels like it did anyway. And, like, you got the fight, you got the fighting, you got the DJ battle, and it gets intense because then the cops come there. You get the interrogation, which is funny and random. Like, you didn't see that coming. You didn't think they were going to talk to him like this and him to like that. And when they collect this, they put the scenes collectively, simultaneously, back and forth. You're just laughing. You're like, really? They're talking to him like this? And they are literally hitting this guy on the table like, no, that's not what you said. And whatever. It's so cool. Like, this movie is just great. You keep thinking, what is he gonna do? Like what would you do if this was you? You know, like, it's so good. Like, I don't know how anybody could not like this movie. It's just very well done. It's so crazy how much the characters transform. Excuse me. Stanley Kubrick movies. I love Stanley Kubrick. He is easily one of the greatest directors of all time. And he is probably the most perfectionist most perfectionist director of all time, just from stories I've read and stuff like that. I love The Shining. The Shining is really crazy because when you're done watching it, and even years after, I gotta take a drink break. You will be asking yourself, you know, what did this mean? What was this about? What was that about? What was this and that about? Right? And when you compare it to the book, yes, their things were literally changed. At the end of the book, the entire hotel was on fire. Okay, like burning down. And the end of this movie, we'll just say it was not that. We'll just say that. You know, so don't ruin it for anybody who hasn't seen it. You have to see this, though. Jack Nicholson literally was insanely good at this movie. Like, this would be, like, if you just seen every movie in order of all time, this would be the one that would make you a Jack Nicholson super fan. Like, he just nails this role. He becomes, like, the face of, like, crazy people. And that's a compliment. That is not a diss. That is a compliment. Like, he's, like, becomes the face of crazy people. And Shelley Duvall does great too. People are finicky. Some people say, "Oh, I liked her. I don't like her in this way." They say, "Oh, she's weak," and it's funny because I disagree with that, because she was the one taking care of Danny, the little boy. she was the one holding down, everything, and she was the one checking on him while he's the one being lazy, in a sense, and she's the one fighting off the attacks and stuff. So I just don't see that. I think it was misread by a lot of people watching. But nonetheless, I love this movie. It's creepy in a weird way that you don't see in other movies. That's the only way I can really explain it. You see a lot of crazy movies, a lot of horror movies. This one does it, but in a completely different way. Not like other ones. It's not like just jump scares or, I don't know, just horror characters that are done in, traditional ways. This one, no. The Shining, great movie, intense at the end, but you'll still love watching it all the way through, just to notice all the little things you see, because the way Stanley Kubrick is, every detail is there on purpose. That's the way he is. He is that intense. Every single item on the lens means something with Stanley Kubrick. So you'll know when you're seeing this movie and any of his others, it's meant, if you see it there, it's meant to be there. You're meant to think about this, right? All right, my other favorite Stanley Kubrick movie and my personal favorite war film, Full Metal Jacket. So this movie, first of all, it has authenticity. It stars Lee Ermey. He was a drill sergeant in real life, okay? He is a war veteran in real life. And this isn't even his first Hollywood movie where he was a drill sergeant. This is his second one. It's like, so he was meant to be a darn drill sergeant, right? He nails the drill sergeant role. I mean, sorry about that. He nails the drill sergeant role perfectly, flawlessly. He is loud. He is great at insults. He's nonstop just insulting everybody creatively and just killing them with his words. He is intense in the way that he should be, very appropriate to the time and stuff, and his job description and all that. And he is whipping these people into shape, and he is punishing the ones that are not getting whipped enough. And he does it so perfectly. He steals every scene that he's in. And all of a sudden, after a certain amount of time, this movie completely transforms. It goes from training, boot camp, graduation, to the stuff that happens after I won't mention. Then, completely different movie. Then they're out in the actual war, and they are seeing what war is really like. They are seeing screwed up things like prostitution and things like how sick some of their own people are. How are you any better than them when you are literally sitting on a helicopter gunner shooting, and you are just killing random people. You don't even know if they're good or bad, or if they're even Viet Cong or not, which is like America's enemy at the time looked at and stuff. Like, you don't even know what. It's just sick. And then you got the ones with good morals. And then you get, it's a crazy concoction of a film. And every scene means something. There's a lot of analysis in this movie too. Like, I'm not going to say it, but like the end, what happens at the end. What does that mean for the character? Why is that what they decided to do? Does it relate to something else that happened before it? Like, there's just so much to it. You got to see this movie. It's disturbing, as war is disturbing. It's appropriately disturbing. All right. Christopher Nolan, definitely one of my favorite actors as well. He is an actor that he is not afraid to make movies that, like, you wouldn't even know how to write on paper or describe. And one of them I like a lot is Memento. This movie, it's about a guy that gets injured in a way where he has memory lapses so badly that he can only remember like a few minutes at a time. So all of a sudden he'll be somewhere and he'll be like, what am I doing here? Like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? And so he literally tattoos himself with notes about what he's trying to do. He has a notepad where he writes down stuff about what he's supposed to do. He has a camera with like a Polaroid pictures that pop out for writing down notes on them, like what he's supposed to know about each person in each picture. And the way they did this movie, they will show you the ending of the movie right away, which right away makes you go, what? Next scene, they show, or next moment, well, technically scene, they show you a couple minutes of flashback to, like, this part of the story. Goes forward. Okay, now we're continuing on from 5 minutes before the end of the movie, and you get to see, like, the part knowing, oh, yeah, okay, we're here right before the end, right? Boom. Switches over to, okay, now we're progressing way from back here again. Stop. 5 minutes later, next scene. 5 more minutes before the end. Blah, blah, blah. And they just keep going. That almost sounds dumb. It almost sounds stupid and absurd until you actually see it. Then you realize it actually works for some reason. I don't know how they made it work, because the way I'm describing it probably makes it sound extremely stupid. But this was done well enough that it worked, and it worked really well. Because when you see this, you realize, maybe, this is my opinion, the point is, like, you're feeling disoriented and confused because that's what the character is too. He's having these memory lapses, and now you are too, because you're watching it in the wrong order. But the actual end of the movie, like at the ending sequence of the movie, without saying anything, you have to be a really, really good writer and thinker to make this ending still good when you're showing the ending at the beginning of the movie, so you already know what happens at the end of his time or whatever in the film. To be able to make the actual ending just as good is really cool. And they did. They nailed it. It's really great. It's disturbing. It makes you think. It makes you wonder the whole time. Just awesome. Okay, I'm going to talk about my favorite two Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. Great actor. I love Arnold Schwarzenegger. I love, like, everything that he does. He seems like a genuinely great person too. I'm not talking about him as a politician. I don't care. But I'm saying him as a person. Like, I like the things he does. You know, he goes to, like, the Special Olympics and stuff and takes pictures with participants and stuff. Like, I think he's a good guy. And I like that he was never afraid to take risks. I saw an interview where he said, you know, people always told me, never do movies with kids or animals. And what does he do? He does movies with both. He's not afraid of the challenge, and he knows he can make it work, and he did. Okay? Just a great, great actor. And here's the two movies of his I like the most. Total Recall, because it's a science fiction movie or whatever. He has a dream. He sees this brunette girl that he's with, that he's, like, dating or something, we're assuming. He's on Mars, and then his helmet breaks, his eyes pop out of his head in a really scary way, and he dies. But then he wakes up. He's with the blonde woman now, and Sharon Stone, and she nailed this role very well. And I'm not just saying for her looks. I'm saying, like, I actually liked how she did her character, how disturbing she was. She was really good at it. She really nailed this. And I love this because they're in the future, so he's able to go to Mars, right, if he wanted to, but instead he knows there's this company that you can go to. You go into a virtual reality machine, and then you can experience the whole vacation, and then you wake up, and then you're done. You get to leave, and you had your vacation, but from your own city or whatever, right? And they even said, you can do this package where you can buy this and you can be like a hero that saves everybody and blah, 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 or whatever. And he's like, oh, sure, I'll add that to my package, and I'll go to Mars for my virtual vacation. I'll add that I'm a hero and blah, 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 right? So all that stuff happens, right? And then all of a sudden you see him getting out of the virtual reality machine, and he's, like, fighting people, and he's whatever. And then the doctors are like, why is he, malfunctioning or whatever? And she's like, well, he can't be, because I haven't even given it to him yet, like the program. And so the movie's going on, and by the end of the movie, I am going to kind of spoil this a little bit, but by the end of the movie, it's so good at being perfectly, and I mean perfectly ambiguous, that you don't know if this was the virtual thing or if that was actually real. You do not know, because they made it perfectly ambiguous at every moment where it needed to be. Even the actual ending was ambiguous enough where you don't know, was he about to wake up? Or was that just a transition thing to end the movie, like some movies would do? You don't know. And that's why that movie is so great. You can make your own interpretations on it. You can look at little details and say, oh, that means it was real. That means it wasn't real, whatever. And besides even that, the action was really good. But similar to The Matrix, it's great to have an action movie with a lot of purpose to it. Like, where you feel like this had a purpose. Like, he had a purpose. He had to do this, blah, blah, blah. It was just amazing. Michael Ironside was great in this movie, too. Sorry, I forgot to mention him, too. Just so cool, man. You gotta love it. The special effects were crazy good. Like, stuff that you'll never forget seeing. Another one for him, True Lies, definitely. This is a long movie, and it works for me, though. Some of the best action scenes I've ever seen, period. And some of the funniest. Like, it's so weird, because the comedy in this is so well done, you almost don't know what you like better. The comedy or the action. You almost really don't know what you're preferring when you see it. It's just really well done. That's really all I can say about it, because you should really just watch that. It's more visual than, explanatory, like I can do here. Okay. All right, I'm gonna say this really quick. This is a little cheat code for this list. Animal movies, those ones you can't really rate on the same scale. Here's why. If you love animals, like I do, okay, like, I love all animals, I could watch them all day, and not only that, but I have animals, like this one, see? And she's going to be just like the animal I'm about to talk about for the next movie. So, like, animals, even the movies that are just, you would normally say are terrible, like, oh my god, this isn't funny, this is a dumb story, this writing is really bad, but if there's talking animals in it, I'm watching it because of that. I don't care how stupid the movie is, and I'm not saying it anyone specific, I'm just saying, there's a lot of movies that are like that, where there's like, really? Like, this movie might have bombed at the box office, it might have terrible writing, it might have, like, a dumb story arc, pointless characters and stuff, but because they're animals on screen, whether they're actually talking with their mouth, or it was so long ago, so old, the movies that they're actually mouths shut, but they're still talking, like you still hear audio. Either way, I can't rate them good or bad because I love the animals in them. Because even if the story is stupid, downright dumb, and pointless, the animal is doing funny things on the screen, and I'm laughing because of that. Do you get what I'm saying? It's judged differently. Okay? But that being said, I'm only going to pick one. Okay? Because this movie I like anyway, with the story, characters, and all that stuff. Lion King 2019. Yes, I love the original Lion King. That's a cartoon, though, right? That one obviously had the better lines, the better dialogue, and all that stuff. And the music, really good in that one, too. A little bit better than the newer one. There's some songs in that one that didn't make it in the new one, and that's unfortunate. Yes, I agree. But just me personally, since I love animals, and I would prefer to look at real animals, I am picking the new one for that reason, okay? The action is great. How often do you get to see animals fight, and fight to this scale? Because this is the best special effects, technically, I think, ever done in a movie, because people have watched this and said they got every single thing on every animal done perfectly, realistically depicted, down to every anatomical vein. They said everything that detailed is done in this movie very well, and I agree. Besides, the only unrealistic things is they talk like English. So, duh, obviously we have that, but who gives a crap, right? Because it's a movie. You'd rather have that than just watch them and try and figure it out for yourself without using your ears. No crap. Anyways, I love the action in this. I love animals anyway, so I'd be watching this anyway, even if this wasn't a movie, all right? But since it also is Lion King, and they at least kept the one voice actor that they needed to, James Earl Jones, one of the greatest voice actors ever, thank God they at least kept him. You know, this is just a remarkable experience. This is a movie that, because I love animals, I love it, I watch it, I enjoy it, and it's you could even watch this movie on mute and just have it playing in the background, and it's almost as if you're just watching like a documentary or something. Like, it's that well done, that realistic looking, and it's just so cool to see these animals, and then they end up fighting each other and stuff, and they all work really well together. I don't know, it's just it's a sight to see. It's really beautiful and really cool. And of all the stories they could have made into a realistic looking thing, I'm glad it was this. Like, this was so cool. So I just add that on there. All right, we're almost to number 1 now. Okay, we're getting to the nitty gritty, to the end here. Now, this is not a hint for my favorite movie of all time, but my favorite director of all time, and this one is a clear choice for me, Alfred Hitchcock. I knew nothing about him in his movies, nothing. And then just a few years ago, I was like, I keep hearing that name, and I'm like, and I never really gave him a shot. I gave him a chance. I need to take a drink. 1 second. I was like, you know what? I never really gave him a chance or a shot. Why? Because of me just being, stubborn. Like, there was my own personal stigma of older movies was everybody always talked a certain way, and it was kind of annoying to me. Everybody talk like this, see? And we're going to do it just like this, or else I'm going to knock your block off. That's how I perceived older movies, and that is my mistake, by the way. That's because I must have seen some that made me think, oh man, they all look like this. And so I gave him a chance. Best decision I ever made, because he has some of my favorite movies of all time. And these movies prove to me something. Time/technology has no effect on whether a movie is going to be great or not. With the technology we have right now, you think we would be making masterpieces, and we're not. We're making crap. We're making absolute crap. And these movies were so long ago, and black and white, some of them, and stuff like that, that they don't have any CGI. There's no computers or anything like that. And yet, you think, okay, in today's movies, you can have things like people falling out of airplanes, people getting run over by trains, people getting shot in the face with a gun, and stuff like that you can't have in these old movies. So you keep thinking, yeah, the new ones are going to be the best of the... But they're not. They're not. Hitchcock's movies are way better than today's movies. And that's coming from somebody who wasn't looking for that to happen. I was under the impression that old movies sucked, and the new movies were the better shot of being good. And I proved myself wrong by watching these, by giving them a shot. So I'm just going to go with these ones that I wanted to make sure made the list, okay? Rear Window. This was Jimmy Stewart and Grace Kelly and Raymond Burr. Amazing by all of them. Rear Window is... The entire movie is suspenseful. The whole thing is a suspenseful story. It takes... The camera is in one room the entire movie, but the camera doesn't move around, to be fair. And you're looking out of the window. You're seeing all the neighbors up and down with their windows open sometimes and their shades open sometimes. You're seeing how they are and all that stuff. And then Jimmy Stewart is a character with his leg injured, so he's on a wheelchair. And his girlfriend comes over and keeps him company. They fight, they argue, they don't get along. And then his nurse comes over and helps him with his back and stuff like that. And she is giving him crap, and she's just hilarious. She's really funny. And then Jimmy Stewart is so paranoid because he's got nothing better to do. He's just on his binoculars, and he thinks he sees a murder go on. He's like, I know there's a murder. You're not convincing me there's not a murder over there. And then us as the audience is perfectly with him right there, thinking the same thing. And his girlfriend comes over, and how do they reconcile their differences? They try and see if there's a murder going on. It's like, like, you can't make this stuff up. But nonetheless, it is done so perfectly. Everything, the ending is so good. Hitchcock has the best endings, too. The ending in this is so good. It's so perfectly fitting to what goes on. I'm not giving that away. It's just great. Every scene is intense. It's intense when you're watching from afar. It's intense when you're watching from up close. It's when that happens in the story, I'm saying. The characters are all great. Everybody's convincing. And the doubt that he gets from people and stuff, it's just perfect, man. You can't not love that movie. That movie is insanely better than today's crap. Vertigo. That movie is insanely good as well. I think that was 59, maybe 57. I might be getting that mixed up. I think it's 1959. Vertigo was technically named the greatest movie of all time. I disagree with that, but I do think it's good that something beat Citizen Kane by Orson Welles. And no offense, Orson Welles is a great director and actor. He directed and acted in his own movies, and that's crazy, right? And he was good at both. But nonetheless, Vertigo knocked that off the pedestal in 2012. So it's considered by critically acclaim the greatest movie of all time. Vertigo is now. And that's cool because it's got Jimmy Stewart and Kim Novak is the main two. And so he sees something messed up happen when he is on the rooftop and he falls. He's holding on to the part of the roof where he's about to fall off and die himself, but his friend falls off and dies, right? So that screws him up, and he becomes afraid of heights. Excuse me, he becomes extremely afraid of heights, and that comes into play a lot in this movie. And then he gets a one last job, right, being a detective for his friend. And he says, I need you to follow my wife, because I don't know what she's up to, but from this time and this time she does this, and I don't know what it is, and I want to find out. So he follows her, and then it's so great how this happens. She is played by Kim Novak, Madeline Elster. She is sitting on a bench in an art museum with the flower, looking at this painting of a girl with the flower. And so you see the symbolism. You look at that and you realize, just because of how great Hitchcock is, you see, hey, what are they doing? They're showing you without words, without needing to explain to the audience of the listeners that have small brains, in a lot of new movies I'm saying would do. This one shows you what they're thinking instead of telling you, which is really impressive. So at first it becomes like a kind of stalker-ish movie, but then it changes when he saves her life, when she almost drowns and she falls in the river, and then then she actually does die when she kills herself, and he couldn't save her because he was starting to climb the tower to stop her from jumping, but then his fear of heights kicked in, and it showed one of the coolest camera angles ever caught in film. I think, if I remember right, I might be getting the numbers wrong, but I swear it was like $10,000 or something to make that one shot that Hitchcock invented at the time, which is really cool when you invent stuff outside of just normal great filming. He would zoom in while slowly pulling the camera back just right, and it creates this hypnotic effect that he pulled off, and it was just a grandiose performance. And so that movie's great. The twists are great. The ending is great. The moments of clarity are the best by far, and the symbolism from what I'm reading online and stuff, like the colors and stuff, I can't see that because I'm colorblind, but they say that stuff is like the best ever done in this movie. So you gotta love that movie. Okay. North by Northwest. This one was 1957. This one was Carey Grant. This is an incredible film. It is like 2.5 hours. Not one scene is boring. First, he starts out, he gets basically in a bad position. He ends up in court drunk because other people that kidnapped him made him drunk and then made him drive, and then he got arrested. And he's trying to tell everybody, no. I'm the victim. I was kidnapped, for one. They made me drink, and they just kind of shoved me over here. This isn't me drinking and driving. His mom is there not believing a word of it. It's just hilarious. And then he finds out that the agent that people are thinking he is not even real. So what does he do? He assumes the role of the agent. That is so crazy to even think about. It's ludicrous. And yet, here Carey Grant is he's got the witty punchlines, he's hilarious, he is funny, and there's action in this movie that is still incredible even with today's standards. And his comedy, he steals every scene. I mean, Carey Grant is a natural, amazing actor. And then you see, like, the auctions and stuff, and he's just making the whole room pissed off at him on purpose so he can get escorted out by security and not be stolen by the other killers and stuff. And then everybody he talks to, mysteriously, something happens to them. Amazing. And then the funniest part of this movie, that I laughed so hard when he forgot that there was the gun with the blanks, and he was being held up by the woman in the house. And then he hears psh, 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 gunshots, or you hear gunshots, and then he runs out of the house, runs to the car, and says, I was sitting there for 5 minutes, and I didn't realize that was the gun with blanks. And then I realized it. I laughed so hard. That was incredible. And then, I'm not going to ruin the ending, but the ending was really cool, too. Just really neat. You gotta love this movie. There's no way you can't love these movies I'm describing. I mean, it's just so cool. So well done. Okay, Dial M for Murder. This is a movie where the whole film takes place in one room, besides a couple transition shots. But a guy in this movie is basically, and Grace Kelly's in this too, of course, and she is amazing in this movie. She is like the perfect man. She should have done more Hitchcock movies. She did these three. She did three of them, excuse me. If she would have done more, that would have been great. But then she ended up doing something else. But anyways, I'm getting off topic. So in this movie, Dial M for Murder, the guy is sick of his wife, and he knows his wife is in love with this other guy that's always visiting, Tony. Or no, he's Tony. I forget the name. I'm not going to try and remember right now. But so, what he does is, he comes up with a plot that is so well thought out, it is just insane. He just sees a guy from college that he remembered, and then he does research. He finds out that guy basically murdered somebody else, and he got away with it. He finds out that this guy he has this dirt on him. He can blackmail him while covering his own ass. And he's like, this is what you're going to do. Because he convinces him to come over for a different reason, for the car. A 22-minute conversation goes by just talking in the same room. And yet only Hitchcock could make this entertaining and worthwhile and suspenseful. And instead of characters acting with this, like, over-exaggerated, crazy, adrenaline, raw emotion, where, like, you say something uncomfortable, and the character, in most movies, they would just scream, they would punch the table, they'd be like, that's absurd, or they would maybe charge the other character and try and punch him or something. Unlike those most 99% of movies, in this one, they don't. He still hears him out. And the way that they do it, I'm not describing it well at all, by the way. You have to actually see this. Not take my word for it. Because I'm not even doing any of these movies. I'm talking about Justice. You got to listen to it. It's so well. And then he plans this all out. He says, all right, nobody will ever know. Because I don't know you. You don't know me. We haven't seen each other in years. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to leave the key under the staircase. All you have to do is sneak in when my wife is here alone tomorrow night. You got to take her out, and then here's your opening amount, and then your rest of your deposit will be mailed to you with a deposit box key or whatever. He's got this all planned out, and then you realize as the phone rings and interrupts this, he is great when he's ready and he's planned out everything, and then he is terrible when he needs to improvise. It's a really funny dichotomy that happens. So then he does all that, right? And then it goes terribly wrong. She kills him instead. So it's very suspenseful because as he's trying to calm her down, he is trying to find the key in the dead guy that he hired, his wallet or his pockets. He's trying to find stuff. He's trying to plant stuff in him to make him look like he was doing it for a completely different reason, that he was mailing anonymous letters to his current wife that didn't die, saying, hey, I know about your secret relationship, blah, 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 to make it look like this was a meeting of people that knew each other and blah, blah, blah. He convinced her to wait at the house and don't call the police and he'll be there first, made it look suspicious. He had improvised and done very well, and it becomes a cat and mouse game, as they call it. That's slang for that when the police or the investigation or whatever and him, and then I just love it because you wonder what is going to happen. Is he going to get caught? Is something else going to happen or whatever? How is he going to get away with it if he does, and blah, blah, blah. And then little things like, oh, well, the key isn't here, whatever, so he must have came in through the window. And then the inspector goes, nope, it was raining last night, and this spot is completely dry, so it could not have been that. And then you realize he's thinking, he's like, yeah, that doesn't work, shoot. And he's like, he has to think of another way for this to work for his perspective, because he has the alibi. He was at that place. He was at a different place, so they know he didn't kill her, but yet he has to make it work. And he has to say that I have nothing to do with it. I didn't hire anybody or whatever, and it's just so well done. It's no movie with this type of storyline has been done better than this, ever. It's so good. It is so good. Alright, now I'm going to talk about To Catch a Thief. Oh, man. To Catch a Thief is just such a cool movie. This was Carey Grant and Grace Kelly. This was an action movie with such cool action. You love it. You love this guy is like that untouchable guy where he escapes through windows and stuff. You can't get this guy. You cannot apprehend him. He's too good. He's too slick. He's too cunning. And this movie made me think Carey Grant must have played James Bond before. To come to find out, he never did. And I was like, really? He never did? And then you find out, when I do more research on it, I found out that his character in the movie To Catch a Thief became the inspiration for what James Bond would be like. And it's like, you look at him and you go, yeah, that makes sense, because look at him. So, this is just really cool action. It's really suspenseful in like the end. A lot of it is really funny. Grace Kelly and her mom, I think that's her mom in it, or her mom, I mean, like the character, whoever that is with her, accompanying her, really funny. She believes him. Grace Kelly doesn't. She thinks he's just an asshole that stole her jewelry too, and he's like the best thief of jewelry ever, and then someone else is doing it. He's getting framed for it. Someone else dies. They think he had something to do with it. It's Cary Grant at his best again. He nails this role too, and it's fun to watch. It's action. It's got everything there. It's just, you can't not love this movie either. And a side note, there is a strip of road in this movie, and Grace Kelly's in this movie, and that is the same road in this movie that Grace Kelly actually died in. Crazy, right? Just insane. Two that I won't really go into details on. Notorious is another really good one too. Cary Grant, black and white movie. This is that time, and what I like about him in that one is he's again really funny. He does his role really well, where he's like super professional and serious, but he's still got his punchlines, right? And then things you take for granted today. The camera is way up on the top of the mansion, coming down slowly, and then zooming in on the key behind the character's back. And we take things for granted like that today. How they did that in, I think it was 1942 or 1940 or something, is remarkable. Because we look at that now and we're like, yeah, whatever, we see it. But you have to take a second and think, wait a minute, look at the time this was. Look at the cameras they had to use. So imagine the equipment of mastering that shot that they did, because they wanted it to work that way. It's like, anyways, another one, again, I won't go into detail a lot about this one, but the Saboteur is another really good one. I like this one a lot. It's, a guy witnesses people, a fire, and someone died, right? And he knows that it's this guy named Fry that did it. And everybody's thinking it's actually him, though. So he's running from the law, and on the way, he meets this special girl. She doesn't believe him, but her father believes him. She keeps trying to get him, arrested and stuff. He doesn't. He's still upset, but he still, keeps her around and stuff, right? And all the crazy things that happen in between. This is an adventure. This has umpteenth different locations in it, and the ending is really good. I won't give it away. Really cool. Really fun. It's a good-hearted film when you watch it all the way through. Okay, and this one, not a popular one for, critics or whatever, but this is my favorite Hitchcock movie. This is in my, probably my top 3, honest to God. This movie, you have to see this at least once in your life. And you have to know this backstory. And I know I hate being like that. Oh, before you watch this, you have to know this. But this is the one exception. Literally, this is the one time. There's an exception where you have to know it. Rope, 1948, with Jimmy Stewart. And oh my God, this movie is perfect, in my personal opinion. This is not my favorite movie of all time. I'm getting there. But this is Hitchcock. This is my favorite movie of all time. Oh my God. This entire movie is suspense. Literally. So, this movie, it's 2 friends invite their other friend from college over. They strangle him. They murder him with rope. They hide him in a box. They put tablecloth on it. They invite a whole bunch of friends over as an alibi or whatever. And they eat dinner with them so that when they all leave and the guests leave, that they can go on their road trip and be out of there and they won't get caught. They can get away with the perfect murder and have an alibi and whatever with people and do it right in front of them. Right in front of them, right? That's already good enough. But this is why this movie is even better than that. It's got a non-stop filming. In other words, they filmed this beginning to end, a full-length movie, without stopping, without scene transitions, without none of that, with one shot. The only thing is, if you notice, every 8 minutes, it'll zoom in on a character's shoulder and then pull back. That's because the reels of these cameras at the time were limited to 8 minutes. So every 8 minutes, they'd crank, they'd have to take their reel off quickly and put the next one on and zoom out and continue filming. So they filmed this movie beginning to end without stopping, just to change reels, 8 minutes. And so you get to see the reason that's important. This movie starts out at daytime, it ends, and I mean the very end, in dark time. In other words, if they screwed up one part, they'd have to wait till the next day to try and film it again, because they needed that time frame of 4 to 5:30 p.m. or whatever it is for the sun to set, but at the time they needed it to. So if you screwed up a line, you had to start over. And that's why this is great, because everything was done well. The conversations were funny. The conversations were thought-provoking. And dark. The humor is great. The shots were great. There's a part when he's got the actual rope that he killed the guy with. The door swings open. He opens the drawer. The door swings open again where you can see him again. He's got the rope. The door swings open again. You see the rope fall into the drawer, and he shuts it. The door swings open again. Then he walks out. You got to remember, that might not be a big deal, except this was done in one take. So that means that part had to be done with the right timing, as well as every single word spoken. Nobody could have interrupted each other, or they'd have to start over and stop. Nobody could giggle, they'd have to stop. Nobody could choke on their words, or they'd have to stop. and all these conversations where these actors have to, some of them get really upset with the subject matter and stuff. Like, there's like legitimate arguments and stuff that happen in this movie. They are doing that acting flawlessly, where they look like they're genuinely pissed off, and this is something they had to do in one take. They could not screw it up. They had to be in the right spot at the right time, talk in the right time, react at the right time, and the dark humor is just crazy in this. The entire movie is one big suspenseful thing, because the whole movie is what? There's a dead guy in the box right next to them the whole time that they're just hiding. And here's another reason this is so great. So the main character is so good at this. He has zero worries. He's not scared of nothing. He has 100% confidence. He's got 10,000% confidence. He's able to nail this, right? His best friend that's with them is the scaredest guy in the world. He is so scared, and every time anybody even alludes to something inappropriate, even if it's not about in the room or whatever, and they start talking about like a murder or something, he is just bad. He is lost, right? And then Jimmy Stewart's character, I don't really want to say too much about it, because you have to see this, but he nails his role perfectly in this one. He's got his dramatic speech, like he does in most of his movies, perfectly done. His anger is believable, and he has his right for it and everything. It's such a great movie, beginning to end. And then you stop and you realize how remarkable it was. It was done in one take, and the movie starts in daytime, ends in nighttime, and every single motion was done in one take. They had to do it right, or you would miss the rope being dropped into the drawer that then gets shut, and with the door swinging in between those shots. If they screwed that up, they'd have to start the whole movie over. They did it in one take, just like a play. And they had to have everybody argue and react to the arguing and act drunk in the right way, or they would screw the scene up and they'd have to start all over. They had to have the camera facing the right person for the right conversation and moment every single time, or they would have to start this whole thing over. They shot it in one take and perfected it, and that's what makes it even better than it already was. This movie would already be great, but that makes it insanely better and impressive, and you have to respect that. And on top of all that I just said, I never would have thought you could make a dark movie like that in 1948. Oh, and it's in color too, by the way. Not that matters whether it's good or not, but I'm just going to add that. 1948, you can have a movie this dark? I didn't know that was allowed. I thought for sure that was like, no way could you have a movie about murdering someone and then like laughing about it and stuff, and all that, all the dark humor and the laughing, the confident guy alluding to like murder and stuff like that as he's breezing his way confidently through all the guests and company they got over and stuff. And I'm like, you can do that? Like, you can show like someone choked to death and stuff in 1948? I never would have thought that, ever. I thought there's no way that's something legitimately allowed. All right, so that's Rope. Now, basically, Rope and this next movie, I'm going to say, are my second contender for second best movies ever made. Okay, next one here is surprising because of the time, because of how new it is by comparison, right? Inception. This came out in 2010. This movie blew my mind. Christopher Nolan, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and then Leonardo DiCaprio, and everybody else. I'm not going to remember everybody right now, but I'm just saying, this movie changed my life a lot. This was a great film. This was done so well. This was a challenging movie to make, I imagine, and Christopher Nolan, props to you for being able to even put this thing together. I mean, this is an incredible puzzle. This is a movie that it will piss you off if you only like simple movies. You're not going to like this movie. That's the thing. If you're willing to research something when you're done watching it, like I personally am, this is the movie for you. Like, you you need to see this. And besides even that, it's great even for other reasons. It's got original action sequences. In other words, this action in this doesn't remind you of any other movie's action scenes. They're all standalone Inception. That's an Inception moment, right? And at the time when I saw this, I was actually going through a rough time in my life. I was like pretty sad about certain things going on, and I didn't even go to this movie with that. I just went by myself, which is like a weird thing to do, to go to a movie by yourself. You know, like I felt like a loser that day. But honestly, I saw a preview for this, and I saw buildings falling down, and I'm like, I don't even know what this is. But whatever, I'm just going to go see it anyway, because DiCaprio is a good actor, great actor, excuse me. And I'm like, I'll just see it, whatever. And there changed my life, man. I saw this movie, and that made me infinitely think, like, dude, like, I like complex stuff now. Like, I like thinking deep. I like not being able to describe what I want to say and then finding a way to do that, except when I'm doing live videos. But no, like, this, the acting is great. It's science fiction with a purpose, with a good, genuine purpose. He lost his kids. He thinks there's no way he can go back home because they, as he explains, they think he killed his wife. And he didn't. She committed suicide, right? Is what we're being told. So he says, if there is even a shot, because he said, sir, I need a guarantee that I can get home. And then you relate with him. You're like, yeah, I want you to get home. I want you to have your kids again and stuff. We would suck without them, right? So you're with him on that level, right? And then this movie takes you to several different locations. And then you realize this movie has a universal, commonly known thing, which is dreaming. When you're dreaming, weird things happen all the time in your dreams, and you can't explain them, and you don't understand them, and you know, whatever. So this movie, these people hijack dreams, but it's not that simple. You don't just go in and you're whatever. You go in there, and people will, you know, attack you and understand you. So you have to be really good at your job. You have to know how to blend in with the projections in the dreams, and you have to know the rules. Like when you're in a dream, if you die, you just wake up. You're done. But if you're in your dream and someone shoots you in the leg, for example, you're going to be in extreme frickin' pain while you're still in there, and that's going to suck. And then you find out, okay, then this is what you need to do. That gives them this one last mission, right? And I forgot to mention, they recruit Ariadne, and she is an excellent actress. She does a great job here, Ellen Page. And when they get her, she gets to see the dream world, and she gets to see art, and she gets to make her own towns and make the whole world bend in her own direction. It's so cool to see that. The effects were perfect in this one, right? And then you get to see what happens, right? So she joins in on his crusade to get his kids back. He gets an offer for one last mission. He helps this really rich guy destroy something of one of his competitors. This other guy is his dad is dying in charge of his empire, of his company or whatever. I'm not trying to get too specific, but I'm just saying. So he needs to plant an idea in his head to make him do his own thing instead of following in his dad's dreams and footsteps or whatever, right? So how is that ever going to work? He has to plant an idea in his head. How do they do that? He does something that his colleagues are telling him is not possible. You have to go within, not just in the dream, you have to go within another dream, and then you have to go in even deeper subconscious within that dream as well. And so the only way to do that is you can't just be sleeping. You actually have to be drugged to sleep with like an actual drug that will put your entire body to sleep, like a narcotic, right? And then he gets the best of the best of the best crew together to do this job, and they get in there, things go wrong, but it's really cool action, and then he gets every level deeper or whatever, and then someone is almost dead, and he was about to die or whatever, from his teammates, like, oh, I'll just wake him up, I'll shoot him, And then DiCaprio reminds him, no, you can't. This is when you are sleeped by drugs. In other words, you're unconscious not by your own will, but by force in a dream. If you kill yourself, you go to limbo. You don't just wake up and you're fine. You go to limbo, which is an infinite hell. You're staying there forever, right? So the stakes get even bigger, and you almost forget about why they're there in the first place, to try and get his kids back and stuff. So they keep pushing through, and the action is just very original, very unique, very suspenseful. The music is so good. Hans Zimmer, an amazing producer of music, just amazing. And he used the same couple of instruments to do every piece of soundtrack in this movie. And they're all really great. They all work perfectly well with every situation. You feel the tone and mood of everything in here. Bernard Herrmann's another one that I really love to listen to. So he does just John Williams too. But he does so good in this. The music it keeps the momentum going in every scene. It really steals the show. And without ruining nothing else, you have to see this. Everything in this movie is going to be debated afterwards. Like, did this mean this? Did this happen like this? Was this a this? Was this a that? Was that a this? And that's all good fun, because people have wrote books about this movie. People have researched this movie. This movie is so good that I won't watch it for years apart, because it's that good that I want to be somewhat surprised when I see it again. I will not watch this movie more than once every 2 to 3 years, because it's that good. It was that impactful on my personal life, like how good it was and how much it made me think, that I needed to be ready when I watched this every time, right? So well done. Just amazing movie, beginning to end, no dry spots. Everything is really cool, creative, impressive, remarkable, and the acting is all great as well. The action is all great and very original too. So props, an amazing movie. Any one of these movies I've mentioned today could easily be number one too. Don't get me wrong, they could. This is a personal preference thing. This is it right here. This is my personal favorite movie, and it's not by a long shot. No, it's not. It is a shock, though. It is, because it is another newer-ish, later released movie, which is surprising coming from me, from what I like. But you know what? It is what it is. This is what happened. My favorite movie of all time, personally, Public Enemies, 2009. Johnny Depp, Christian Bale. Amazing. This movie is just so great. It is so well done. It is so cool in every right. This movie is a masterpiece. Like I've already said it 8 billion times. You can watch this movie beginning to end, no dry spots. You don't want to fast forward nothing. You don't want to miss nothing. Blah, blah, blah. It's based on a true story. If you do the research, yes, there's things that are done wrong, but most of the things done wrong in this is the timeline. This character died at this time, whereas in the movie they show it the other way around. That stuff, I can live with that. It's like they both died anyway in the movie, like in real life, right? So it's not a big deal to me, personally, if they just did it in the wrong order, whatever, you know. The important thing is the stuff that they needed to put in here, they did. And this is Johnny Depp's best role by far to me, even better than Ed Wood. This was just wow, like he nails this, right? And Christian Bale does a great job in this movie, and they're completely different characters doing completely different work, and they're after each other, but not in the typical like cat and mouse thing like I was describing earlier. Like at one point, he has John Dillinger locked up, and he visits him, and he's like, next time I see you, you're going to the electric chair. And they keep the parts that happened in his life that were interesting. So John Dillinger was the first person to become the public enemy number one on the FBI's most wanted list, which allowed them to pursue him across state lines, which was a big deal and very important at the time, a real thing that happened. And so he also was notorious for escaping jails and prisons. Like, this guy was a hero, like, to the people, because he stole from the banks. People would put their money up on the counters and thinking that, they don't want to get shot. So they're like, here you go. And what did he say? He said, I'm here for the bank's money, not your money. And now I understand, like, that's like the bank's money is whatever, but you get my point. Is he was like, no, I am not here for you. I'm here for them. I'm here for the greedy corporate people. And the scenes were shot so well. The action is great. This is the thing that steals it for me. And I hope I can describe this with justice, honestly. Never in my life, ever, and I'm probably going to fail abysmally explaining this, but never in my life have I ever seen every single scene, no matter what it is, whether it's action or conversation or driving or whatever, shot so perfectly. I don't know why this movie did that so well. The angles were the best I've ever seen in any film by far. Everything. Like, when there was shooting, I never felt like the camera was inappropriately aimed or whatever. Like, I felt like it was always right where it needed to be. Like, every single time. Every single moment was captured perfectly where they should be captured. In this movie, the action is just really good, and it's good because they got the right stuff. Like, the hideout in Wisconsin and stuff, that was the real place. That was shot on location, and I'm not saying you have to do that for it to be good. No, but it was shot on location, and shot on location. Yeah, that sounds funny, but no, it was shot on location, and that scene is so cool to see. Like, when you're watching it and you're seeing them duck out the windows firing, you're seeing the police force and stuff shoot through the windows of the car, and you see innocent civilians and stuff, and you get to see, like, Dillinger's original gang. They're very like on it. Like, when they get in those banks, they're grabbing this, they're doing that, they're pistol whipping people at the safe. They're getting their hostages. They're driving away. They got the perfect getaway and all that. Then you got when Babyface Nelson comes in, you realize this is the most ruthless dude ever. I mean, he is just shooting people in the face, multiple bullets. I mean, this guy is just slaughtering people, like, no remorse. Not even like an ounce of care has gone away. He is just doing everything. Like, he doesn't have a conscience. I mean, he's just slaughtering people, and it's kind of nuts, because then you see Dillinger, and he's robbing the banks, and he's shooting back at, like, the cops, because he's getting shot at, basically. And then here you get Babyface Nelson. He's just shooting random people in the street. It's crazy how much, and even Dillinger's like, I don't like this, like, So you get to see, like, the character interactions and stuff is really crazy, and then you get to see, like, his lifestyle when things are going well, and you get to see him when he's in prison and how he escaped from prison, which is the true story, and how they show him escaping it. Again, those camera angles, everything is shot perfectly. Like, I don't know, they just did so great at that. Like, the part when the cops are running up, like, the metal stairs or whatever, and he was able to, like, hit the door, and then they fell back, and they showed that every moment, captured it perfectly aligned where they should be, and they showed all of it. And then, then he escapes by stealing the sheriff's car, and then the one guy says it's the sheriff's brand new V8 and stuff, and then he's driving, and oh man, and then he goes into the Chicago police station, where he's got all of these wanted posters and stuff for him, Public Enemy #1, and then he even has the balls to ask them what's the score of the game or whatever when they're listening to the radio. And then the ending, they got you get to see, like, the movie theater and stuff, and then you get to see, because this is what actually happened. Unless you believe, like some people do believe, there's a conspiracy that he didn't die, that it was actually someone named Jimmy Lawrence that died or something like that, and that he wasn't dead, but they just believe it was him or whatever. Whatever it is, I'm saying let's assume that it is the truth. Then this movie showed it like the truth, where he goes into the Biograph movie theater, he watches, I think it was Clark Gable, Manhattan Melodrama, which is a gangster flick, and you get to see, you feel the emotions with the music. That's another thing. The music well done in this movie too, beginning to end. You really feel like his emotions when he's watching that movie, like, dang, like, look at my life, you know, like you feel that. At least I did. Maybe you didn't, but I felt it watching him watch the movie of like a gangster character, right? And then he gets out, and then you know what happens next. But so every scene in this movie, every conversation, everything that happens, every event, every scene, every special effect, every gunshot, everything in this movie falls perfectly into place. And I know that sounds like a generic statement, but it really does. This movie is perfect to me personally. It has everything you want. It's got comedy, it's got action that isn't boring, not boring at all, and it's original action, because we've all seen these type of firefights before. Mobsters shooting police shooting bank robbers, and whatever. But this was done really well. The driving shooting was done really well. The escapes and stuff, the robbing bank scenes were done really cool. The prison scenes, the courtroom scene was really cool and hilariously funny and awkward. And if you do research, they even said, like, from the stenographer or whatever, they said that this was the one scene in the movie that was basically word for word accurate, was that courtroom scene. And if you watch that, you're like, wow, because of how funny and awkward it is. And then, like, if you watch like newsreel footage of him, John Dillinger, and then you watch this movie of Johnny Depp on the scenes when he's on TV, and he's like, how fast have you robbed a bank? He's like, I'd say about 60 seconds flat. You know, like, all that stuff is stuff that actually happened. Like, you can watch archived footage of on TV and on the news and stuff. You can actually see the scenes that they've recreated, and they've done it really well. They took a lot of time and care into doing that, not just the people and conversations, but the locations and stuff. They've done really well about it, and it's a cool way to see the time period and stuff in this movie. Like, they really nailed that as well. You think they would obviously do that, but I'm just saying, just throwing it out there, they did that really well too. And then you got Christian Bale's character, Melvin Purvis. He is like, dang, I got three of my, and this isn't giving away much, but I'm saying he got a couple of his officers slaughtered because he was kind of like the guy getting the push, while the FBI head J. Edgar Hoover was the one kind of like go do a good job, and he's taking none of the heat. And then you got Purvis out there, and he gets hit, or he doesn't get, but his men get killed, and Purvis is like, I'm putting my foot down. You need to send me some professionals, some guys that know what they're doing, or you're just going to get more and more men killed going after Dillinger and Babyface Nelson. So they end up getting some of his better guys, and then the fights and the shootouts stuff get a lot better because you get some results, you know, and then, you know, Dillinger still escapes, and he becomes like this untouchable man and stuff. And then sad things happen, like, you know, he loses his woman from the police or whatever, and they use her as like, well, you're aiding and abetting a criminal fugitive and whatever, and he's like, God, what am I gonna do? And stuff. And so every scene in this movie is just so cool, so well done. Everybody's acting. I love the intense moments. I love when they go back into the back room of this thing, and you see all the telephone lines, and you're realizing that they're concocting some kind of like a scam or whatever, where they're doing the, what do you call it? They're paying off their bookies illegally or whatever, and all that stuff. I'm losing my mind, like trying to think of the words to describe this. I apologize. if I'm coming off as confusing. But my point is, every scene in this is great, and the acting is great, the action is great, and this is the best camera angles I've ever seen in a movie. Ever. Ever. Like, I wish every movie was shot like this. I don't know what the heck they did with this camera crew, but they need to hire them for every single movie from now on, because they nailed everything. I don't care. I've read things from critics, and no, I don't put much stock into that stuff, to be honest. But I do anyway. I still read it, and I just don't get the criticisms. I don't. In this movie, I especially don't. It's not complicated. There's nothing hard to understand about this movie at all. They make it very simple, but they make it fun and engaging. Everybody gets a good personality that you need to have, and they were accurate where they needed to be, and they failed accuracies where, to me, it's forgivable. It's just timeline stuff. This did happen, what they showed in the movie, but it just happened here and not 7 years earlier or whatever. That stuff is okay with me. Like, I can accept that because what they showed still happened, just not in the order that happened in the movie in real life. So that is it. That is my list of the favorite movies of all time, my personal favorites. Keep in mind, I'm saying these are movies that I love so much that I have to watch them all the way through and not just skim through them when they're on TV one day randomly or whatever. And I will try my best to take lots of time between all these movies watching them because they're that good. Like, I don't want to just overwatch all of these and then all of a sudden I know them all crazy by heart. Some of them I do anyway. Like Goodfellas, I could probably tell you half of that movie, you know. But anyways, no, like, all these movies are great. I want you to remember this. This is very important. Again, if I didn't mention one of your movies, if I didn't mention one of your actresses, your actors, your producers, your directors, your music composers, whatever, that does not mean I don't like them. That doesn't mean that they're not in my top favorites. You know, there could be some stuff that I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe I forgot to put that on here. There's, you know, comedians that I haven't even mentioned that are legendary, that are really great too. And I limited it to 2 comedy movies because I just, those are like the 2 that always come to mind to me for my favorite personal comedy movies and stuff like that. Action movies, there's tons of other great action stars I didn't even mention that I love very much. I love Tom Cruise. I love the Mission Impossible movies and stuff. You know, he's an incredible actor and he does his own stunts. I love Bruce Lee. I love Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan's my favorite kung fu actor. He's very funny and he does the things with the props that no one else does, even closely to that. You know, there's so many other people that I love very much that I didn't mention, so do not feel upset or like that I am ignoring somebody great that you are mad that I didn't mention or whatever. It doesn't mean I don't like them at all. If you want to ask me, I'll let you know if I like them. Maybe you're going to name someone that I don't like, and I'll just have to let you know. That depends on who it is. But that is my list. That is my favorite movies of all time. Public Enemies is my favorite, but a very close second is like basically just a small margin. It's between Inception and Rope, and if you think about it, those 3 movies are extremely different anyway. How do you compare them? But I do put Public Enemies as my favorite, personally. It's got everything, and it is, in my opinion, a flawless work of art. It is my opinion, okay? All right, any questions, let me know. I have no problem answering them at all. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.